Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show.
Happy
I'm your
Wednesday,
host,
everyone.
Rob Hernandez, and this is Joshua Sean.
I am your host, Joshua Sean, and that is my co-host, Rob Hernandez. Welcome to my show.
AKA Assless Chaps, AKA Beavis.
Did you like my new intro? You're now my co-host. Here, I get made fun of the most.
I got it.
Welcome to the ITC and Paranormal Podcast. All of you joining us internationally, welcome. And those here with us on the East Coast, thank you for staying up late. And if you're on the West Coast, we hope you had a good dinner. And we have an exciting show for you tonight. Rob, take it away.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing show. We have an amazing guest. My good friend, Sophia Temporelli is on with us.
Hey, Amanda, Sylvia.
Another live paranormal family member. And Sophia's been she's been on live paranormal for 10 years now. She's been doing it since she was 12 years old. So and I've known
Incredible.
Sophia for many years. She's a great friend, great host. She's interviewed so many people, everybody in the paranormal, she's interviewed. And we'll talk to her a little bit more about that. So without further ado, let's bring her on. Hey, Sophia, how are you doing?
Hey,
Hey,
I'm
Sophia, how
good.
are
Thank you so much for having me on today. How are you guys?
Oh, doing good.
Doing
What
very
about
well.
yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just bearing through all the housework being done.
And how's school going for you?
I'm not in school.
Oh, you're not in school. Okay, I
No,
thought you
no.
were. I'm sorry, my bad.
No, it's going good because I'm not in it.
All right, right
That's
on.
actually a really good answer, right?
Yeah, it's going fantastic. I honestly have never had a better time in school because
Right.
I'm not there. I tried when I was little so hard to give it up for Lent and it never worked out. Finally, I got it.
Nice. Well, that's good. Yeah, so I mean, God, I've known you for a long time, and I have so many questions for you that I've never really, that I would like to ask you on the air.
Mhm.
Just so people can kind of get a little bit background with you. I mean, you've known Peter James, you knew Peter James. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but I know that you and your family was very close to Peter, and I had the pleasure of meeting Peter back in the early '90s on the Queen Mary. When I ran into him, I had no idea that he was working on the Queen Mary. So I ran into him and introduced myself to him, and I was just like kind of starstruck because I was a huge follower of his. And so he and I were walking around, and he was just like, he was kind of teasing me, like, "You have abilities, don't you?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And because at that time I was still kind of learning about myself in the paranormal. So we were walking around, and then I said, "Hey, let me ask you something." We're like near the ballroom, and
Mhm.
I said, "Has anybody ever seen a lady in like a pink chiffon dress?" And he looked at me, and he was like, "So tell me about that." And then I said, "Well, one day I was here on a tour, and behind me, I could have swore I kept on feeling a lady back there." And he said, "See, I told you had abilities, but go ahead, continue with your story." And he was so funny. I mean, he was just the way his personality was. He had a sense of humor, and so I told him, and I said, "Yeah, this little girl turned around. She said, 'Mom, look at the lady dancing in the pink dress.'" And he just started laughing, and he said, "Yeah, there is a lady that dances in the ballroom in a pink dress." So it was pretty interesting. But that was my run-in with Peter.
Yeah, I mean, that's super cool you had that experience. I mean, the Queen Mary is such an active place. I mean, you really never know what you're going to see or capture there every time you go.
Right.
I met Peter on, well, my very first investigation back in 2007, May of 2007. So my parents, I obviously wasn't alive back then, but back when Sightings was on, they were dating and they just were huge fans of the show. They used to watch the X-Files and Sightings. They were a huge Peter fan. And because my parents are a little eclectic for their 10-year wedding anniversary, what's the most romantic thing you can do? Go on a ghost hunt. So they were like, yeah, let's do that. And so they were looking around and they, looked at the Queen Mary. That was so close to our house, like 10 minutes or so. And they saw Peter was there. My mom ran into my dad's office and said, John, Peter's at the Queen Mary. We have to go. And, I just, for some reason, I didn't know anything about ghosts, Peter, sightings, nothing. And, I think I've always had an interest with Scooby-Doo and stuff. Halloween was always my favorite holiday. But I just, for some reason, got jealous. I was like, why can you guys go? Why am I not going? I don't understand what the problem is. And so they were like, okay, yeah, okay. So they emailed Peter and said, is it safe for our 8-year-old daughter to go on an investigation on the Queen Mary? And he said, there's over 500 ghosts on the ship. All of them are my friends. Yes, have her come on the tour and we'll have her call out to Jackie. And so my very first investigation was on a tour, which was Peter's final tour on the Queen Mary. And I fell in love and I've just been in the field ever since. I mean, that's how I got started and also how I met Peter. And on that specific tour, this was the second time Peter had met my parents. He, had kind of had a nice conversation with my dad prior on the other investigation on their anniversary. And he just really liked my dad. And because he was psychic, he really was into my dad's writing, even though he hadn't seen it. So he was like, hey, I have this biography I really want published. I would love if you could edit it and kind of just help clean it up for me. So my dad got to talking with him over email, and eventually my dad co-authored his book. And so they had met a few times after that. And I think it might have been 3 months after that tour, 2 or 3 months, Peter actually passed away. So it was a very short timeline. But just with those few meetings, my dad had actually been asked to co-author his book, and just kind of a trickle effect from there.
Right. And the cool thing is, so it was my birthday, about 4 years ago?
Yeah.
When we met up on the Queen Mary?
Every year we have birthdays, Rob.
It was really cool.
I was 18, so like going on 5 years ago, it was a week after my nose job. So 4 years ago, I think. So
yeah, I remember that. You're still recuperating.
Yeah, I couldn't move my upper lip then.
Yeah. And it was really cool because your dad actually had Peter's jacket with him. Mm-hmm. And he goes, Rob, you have to put on Peter's jacket. And he said, so I put it on, and just the energy from that jacket was just like, oh my God, it was so cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing just to hear, kind of how people grew up on shows like Sightings and stuff, and the passion really grew from there. I mean, my parents just went from, dating back in the 90s, watching these shows, to getting married, starting their own family, and that ultimately leading us into the paranormal. And I think it's just fascinating how these shows can really just develop and change people, whether it's something from Scooby-Doo for me or, Sightings for my parents. It's just this passion just always evolves, whether you have like kind of this fictional aspect that people are always interested in, and then it goes to, well, what's the reality of it? And then eventually just actually going and investigating. Right.
And with you, I mean, you have a lot of friends that are, I guess, celebrities in the paranormal. I know that you, you knew the Constantinos really well. I don't want to start name dropping, but you know quite a few people in the paranormal. And then so talking about your show, I mean, you've had so many guests on your show. If you want to share some of that with the audience, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. So, like I was saying, Peter had asked my dad to co-author his book, which was Heaven Can You Hear Me? And shortly after that, after the book was published, we started going to paranormal events. And my mom being like the most extreme mom ever, she loves to feed people. So she would go to these paranormal events with food. And that's kind of how we met, just everyone there. My dad was a vendor, but of course, everyone's going to go to the woman with food.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
So we met a ton of people in the field through that. We met Debbie Constantino. That was my mom's best friend. We met her at an event. And yeah, I mean, when I started my radio show at the age of 12, we started in the field when I was 8, and then probably when I was about 9 or 10, that's when my dad's book was published. We started going to these events, and of course the food drew everyone to us. And by the time I started my radio show at 12, we just had a lot of friends in the field. So I was very fortunate to just kind of know these people and be able to ask them to come on. My first guest was actually Alexandra Holzer, the daughter of Hans Holzer. And obviously we've had Debbie on. And I've just been really lucky that way, just kind of getting to know everyone through the events. And since then, I've, been able to interview people from shows like Destination Fear, The Holzer Files, Kindred Spirits. It's just really been an incredible 10-year journey, going from, meeting these people at events as friends to actually having them on my show and getting to hear a different side to their story and just kind of what interests them and what started it all.
Right. And your show's on Saturdays. What time is the show on?
It's on Saturdays from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. And you guys can find that on Blog Talk Radio or on Blog Talk Radio / Live Paranormal, right?
Yeah, and you can also find it archived on iTunes Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We have some shows actually that we filmed, recorded, and put on YouTube. So you can find shows with, I think the most viewed one is Amy Allen of the Dead Files. So that's on my YouTube channel, The Ghost Host Sophia Temporelli. We haven't posted any in a while because the studio we used to film in, which is a side room off my garage, has like no internet at all anymore. So kind of had to adjust that. But you can find some old shows there. And then, iHeartRadio, iTunes Podcasts, Blog Talk Radio. I think Spreaker has it too.
Awesome. Josh, you have any questions?
Well, I wanted to ask some of the tougher questions. And you obviously started this at a very young age. And growing up, your perceptions of the world change just naturally, the paranormal aside. During these times of growing up, especially the teenage years, that's a time when we're all growing and changing. What impacted you the most in the paranormal during that time period, especially in high school? Because high school's a tough time, right? And looking back, no matter what age you are, you look back at high school and there's a lot of growing to do in high school. So I'm curious, during those ages, what was the paramount paranormal experience you had, something you experienced firsthand that you'll never forget?
Honestly, that was pre-middle school and high school. So I had been in the paranormal about a year at this point.
Okay.
I lived in this house my entire life. So I'll start from the beginning. My dad, when he was younger, he was adopted, but his father was a paranoid schizophrenic. So when my dad was about 9 years old, the house that he grew up in, from the day he came home from the adoption agency, he had to leave. And my grandfather became a ward of the county. In LA County back in the 90s, they did not take very good care of their wards. So he died in the house without electricity or water or anything. And then after he passed away, we moved in. I was brought home from the hospital into this home. So nothing weird, abnormal, multiple generations of family members had lived there. I'd been in the paranormal about a year, and when I was 9 years old, I don't know, it was really weird. It just felt like every square inch of the room was just covered in eyes. That's the only way I can even possibly explain it. And I just was so on edge in my parents' bedroom because I did not feel safe. I just felt so unnerved. And one day I walked in my parents' bedroom and I just saw a man standing in my parents' closet. Now, I didn't see him like an actual person, so I knew that it was not just some random dude. And I was like, there's a ghost in our house. And for living there for 9 years, there's no reason for me to just think this out of the blue. So I told my parents, I said, our house is haunted. There's a man in your closet. And my mom has never been one to tell me I'm wrong over anything. So she was like, okay. She didn't know what to think. Obviously, we had lived there for years. And my dad, having written a book for a psychic, obviously should believe me. No, he didn't. He said, yeah, no, our house is not haunted. And I'm like, he said you're imagining it. I'm like, no, definitely haunted. And one day when my mom was putting on her makeup, she heard 3 knocks from the inside of her closet door. Obviously, no one should be in there. So they grabbed a recorder, and we immediately caught voices. As clear as day, it said, I'll help you put these lights up, which to anyone who didn't know our house, you'd be like, what does that even mean? My mom had kind of this like stool thing in her bed, well, her vanity area of her bedroom. And she had a lighting set on it that she had for years with no idea how to hang. And from there, the activity just progressed. I mean, it was pretty much solely focused on women. So there was no reason for anyone besides a woman to actually know that the ghost was there. He would watch me sleep. He would follow me throughout the house. He would watch my mom sleep. He watched my cousin sleep, who was a female. She actually saw him standing over us when she was sleeping in my bedroom. And by the time she blinked, he was gone. My dog would stand in the hallway violently barking where he was. I would see him just kind of around our house in certain areas, and those specific areas my mom would walk in and she would just immediately enter a cold spot. She could step 1 foot to the left and nothing. Step back, there he was. And now this ghost was not my grandfather. Like I said, he was a ward of the county. So many homeless people could go in and out of the house and no one would know. So there's pretty much a time where anyone who went in and out of it was undocumented. And so we really don't know what or who could have gone in there. But it would just progress from there. I mean, if you rewind a little bit before we realized the house was haunted, my mom actually on New Year's Eve had a piece of metal thrown at her back from 6 feet away, and my dad saw it fly off of the shelf and hit her square in the back.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't there, but when you look back, there's like these little things that kind of told us there was something wrong.
That's a very in your face direct sign. There's something there. It's incredible evidence. I'm sorry it happened, but that's incredible evidence.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like all of the things we got were so clear to understand. I mean, they were all pretty much Class A EVPs, which is insane in your own house. My dad's an 80s metal drummer, which is obviously super loud, and you would hear, like, one time my dad was playing drums and you just heard boom on the side of our house, and there was no reason that should have happened. I had diamond doves in my bedroom. Every time the ghost would enter it, they would just bounce off the cage. Any animal that could see him would freak out immediately upon seeing that ghost. And I mean, looking back, I think that's part of the reason I have an interest in the paranormal, because apparently when I was about 1 or 2, I'm not really sure the age, but before I could talk, but I could also walk, I would go stand with my back against the garage door and I would just stare, frozen. And no one knew why, because I couldn't actually voice what was going on. The only way my mom could get me to move was actually by touching me and physically moving me.
Wow.
So,
I don't know that I've heard of that. Rob, have you heard of that?
No.
So, I think I was seeing it from a time I didn't even know. I mean, I loved Charlie's Angels, the movie, when I was very young. And so my dad got me an autographed photo of Drew Barrymore. That should make me probably the happiest person on earth, right?
Right.
And
it'd make me the happiest person on earth.
Yeah.
That would be cool to have.
Yeah. So, I mean, my parents hung it in my bedroom, obviously. And I'm like, no, it's staring at me. Please take it down. They're like, why do you hate Drew Barrymore? And I'm like, no, it's watching me. And I think I was associating the eyes of the photo with what was happening to me in real time. And so realizing that at the age of 9 was just really difficult. It felt just like torture every single day. I was not comfortable. I wasn't happy. I would come home from school, which is, hard enough as a middle schooler. And I was just miserable. I was so miserable. And the final night I actually slept in my room. I had this loft bed that was really close to the ceiling. I honestly don't know why they even had it that tall. It was ridiculous. And I had a couch bed, and I would sleep on my couch bed a lot because it was in middle school. I'm like, this is fun. This is cool.
Sure,
like,
sure.
That's ridiculous. But my mom went to go change the bedding one day, and I slept on my loft bed, and I would see him standing in my doorway, and I thought, oh my God, he can't find me here. I'm safe. And one night, I'm just going to bed like normal, and this far from my face, I could feel him watching me. He had climbed my loft bed ladder and was watching me sleep. And wow. I don't know how I went to sleep that night, but I don't even know the timeline exactly. It gets a little hazy, but we had our friend come out and investigate the house who's a psychic, and he brought another psychic with him. And they were filming at our house because they knew it was haunted. And I hadn't told anyone about this at this point. And I said, Mom, I really have to tell you something. And she goes, not right now. We have company over. So I told her friend what happened. And my mom's friend pulled her aside and said, you have to hear what Sophia just told me. So at this point, only me, my mom's friend, and my mom know about the man climbing my loft bed ladder. The psychic walks by my bedroom and goes, there's a man on that loft bed ladder. And once my mom heard that, that was the final night I slept in there. And because I'm telling her I'm being watched all the time, she felt like maybe it was kind of messing with her a little bit and making her think that she was also being watched. And she never told anyone that. The psychic walks by her right next to her bed and goes, and he stands here. And that's when my mom knew. Okay.
Immediately picked up on that. Immediately.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just a crazy experience. It's one I'll never forget. I see some people asking if I went back to the house as an adult. No, we moved out when I was about 11. And honestly, even though I love the field, I still pretty traumatized by that experience. And I really just have no desire to go back there for like any reason. Just because I mean, it's like having an actual person stalk you. And I was a small child. It's like having an actual person stalk you, and you can't do anything about it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So for me, going back, I just worry, what if it attaches to me or something? I don't feel like any rewards outweigh the numerous risks that could come with that. And, when you talk to a lot of my mom's female friends who would watch our house when we'd go on vacations, they said, your house always creeped me out. But of course, someone's going to be like, hey, your house weirds me out. So it was a lot of things looking back made sense. But when you were in that moment, it's just scary. I mean, my cousin, she's 9 years older than me. So if I was probably like 10 when she slept in my bedroom, she was 19. And I'm not sure if she knew that the man had been watching me at that point. So I had a mattress on my bed. My bedroom was being redone at that point. So we were sharing a bed, and she just saw an actual man, just clear as day, standing over the two of us.
Wow. Did anybody ever ask for his name? That was somebody asking that question.
I'm not sure. I think my mom asked, like, is anyone here with us? Who are you? I do know the ghost asked her who she was, but that seemed like a female voice. So there was multiple ghosts in the house. I know one of them was my grandfather, but he was not the ghost stalking me. He was kind of stuck more in a loop because he was paranoid schizophrenic, just pacing back and forth. So we're really just not sure who it was.
Wow.
Perchance was a house in San Pedro?
No, it was in Long Beach, kind of like 10 minutes from the Queen Mary by Ocean Avenue.
Okay.
That's very close, yeah.
That's very close.
Yeah, so it was a crazy place to grow up, just in general. I mean, after we moved out, actually, one of the neighbors, Ocean Avenue has a lot of homeless people in general. Right. They saw someone hop the fence, one of the neighbors, and they're like, no one lives there, you shouldn't be doing that, get out of there. So they actually ran into the side gate to go tell the person to leave, and when they went in there, there wasn't anyone there at all. No one.
Jeez.
They clear as
Wow.
day saw a man hop the fence, and there was not a soul there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that would be the one paranormal experience that, you know, isn't from high school or anything, that just really affected me as an investigator and as an adult.
And you've, just by what you've described to us, you've been ingrained in this. It's almost like a second nature to you, where this is just something that you were born into. You're not only more than familiar with, but there's a comfort to it, in that you had these experiences, but you still stood your ground. You still pursued the paranormal, you know, besides that experience you had when you were 9 years old, that very alarming experience. And like you said, it felt like someone was stalking you. When they're in a, you know, another dimension, another realm, you can't really stop that so easily as you could in this reality, you know, when someone's stalking you. So to have that experience and then to continue as you did, steadfast, disciplined, determined, persevere, that's incredible, because usually those experiences at a young age could really deter someone from the paranormal or really scare them forever and never want to look into that or pursue that. So I'm fascinated by your story on how you still stayed the path. Although I know your parents were involved, that you still chose to stay the path and your life took the direction it did.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey. That experiences at a young age, it's really something. I went to Catholic school up until 8th grade. So, I mean, I have my thoughts and theories on the afterlife based on, you know, what I learned in school, but people didn't, even besides Catholic school, people didn't really believe in the paranormal back then. They didn't really talk about it. It just wasn't a thing. So when I would go to school, I mean, I didn't really care back then. I just didn't really care about much. So I would talk about being in the paranormal, but no one believed me. It didn't bother me. But it just was not something I could talk to anyone my age about. And it made it really hard because I felt like, you know, I was kind of alone in this. I could talk to my parents about it, but it's different than, you know, actually being able to talk to someone like you.
Right.
And so when I was 12, that was about a year after we moved out. Well, I started my show at 12. I probably started asking about when we moved out. I was like, you know, I feel like there has to be someone else my age out there who's had similar experiences, who has an interest in the paranormal. And so I was like, I really want a radio show. Please let me have a radio show. And I never stuck with anything at all, like not swimming, nothing. I'm not athletic at all. I'm clumsy. So it's pretty much the opposite. So radio is better for me because then I can sit. But they were like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure what you're going to do with that. And I was like, no, please. And since my dad co-authored the book for Peter, Rob Sarek, the site founder, had been asking my dad to have a radio show. And he was like, no, I don't have times for questions or getting guests or anything. So that worked out really well for him in the end. But he told Rob, I don't want a show. My 12-year-old daughter does. Is that okay with you? Is that something we can do? And he's like, yeah, have her on the site. And here I am 10 years later.
Right. And that's so cool because, I mean, like a lot of people who's had a terrifying experience in the paranormal, they run from it. They don't embrace it like you did. And, you know, I commend you for that. So I understand having a traumatic experience in a location. It's not easy to go back. Trust me, there's a couple of locations that I will not go back to, even to this day. It's just because, so I know. I mean, it's just a traumatic event, and it does bring back bad memories, and you don't know what you were dealing with. And exactly like what you said, you don't know if that entity or whatever, the spirit, whatever, is going to attach to you because they've messed with you once. They can attach to you again, or this time make it either hurt you or attach to you and terrorize you. I mean, so I totally understand that, where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I mean, it just, that's why my parents stopped having me sleep in my room. He had just gotten so close and they were worried about, you know, what he would do.
Right.
I mean, when I was younger, we had a bunch of investigators come out to the house and they would always say, you know, you need to stand your ground, but I'm 9. I don't want to stand
Right.
my ground. I don't know what he's going to do to me. I know ghosts can scratch you, punch, slap, burn you. I'm 9. Like,
You're a
yes, I'm
kid.
an
Yeah, you're a
investigator,
kid.
You're a
but
kid.
I'm scared.
You're a
I'm
child,
very
yeah.
scared. I'm not trying to stand up to this spirit
Right.
whatsoever.
Right.
And I think that he knew that, and that's part of the reason. I mean, he would watch me change. He would watch me sleep. It was as creepy as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
It was, I literally had no break. I'd be watching YouTube videos in my dad's office. I could feel him standing behind me. It was just constant. It was so constant. And, you know, all people would say is just stand your ground, stand your ground. And my dad's not feeling or seeing any of this since it was focused on women. And one night, you go sleep on your loft bed ladder. You know my dad, Rob. He has the long hair, so turned around, he can
he's
maybe
a
pass
typical,
as a girl.
no, he's a typical 80s rocker.
Yeah, but he has the long hair, so turned around
No,
on the
I know.
loft bed, he can maybe pass as a girl. So, you know, he went up there and yeah, he immediately felt like someone was watching him, and he threw his arm over the loft bed ladder, and he said, I felt like he stuck into a bucket of ice water. At this exact moment, I'm laying with my mom in their bed, and she said she felt, when she would walk through the ghost, not only would it feel like a cold spot, she said it kind of felt like, you know, her hair would stand up on end, and it would feel like, you know, when your foot or your arm falls asleep. And so at this exact moment, I'm laying with her in their bed, and she said she felt something come up through the mattress into her body, just the way it did when she would walk through the ghost, and her whole body buzzed from here down. Wow. And I mean, if you think about it, if the ghost had actually gone to that position, my mom's holding me, which means so is that ghost at that exact moment.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
Did anybody ever research the history of the house and its owners?
I know that it was built in 1940. I don't know too much about the owners besides my grandfather. Like I said, you know, it was on Ocean Avenue. He lived there for many years. I think my dad came from the adoption agency to there. I'm not really sure, but I mean, he was very young. So that's the 1970s. He died in the 90s. That's like 20 years. And from the time he moved out, which would have, if he was 9, that would have been 1980. From 1980 to, I think 96 is when he died. That's like 16 years where there's just, anyone could go in and out of there, do anything they wanted. No one would notice. My grandfather couldn't do a single thing about it. Yes, Amy, my dad did believe me after the proof. After he heard the EVPs, he in fact did believe me. It took a little bit more convincing with him, though.
You have to trust your intuition on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty terrifying that, you know, I mean, because the only people that are being terrorized was the women in the house. Mm-hmm. And then your dad, you know, took him a little bit of time for him to finally come around and believe everything that was going on. But I mean, then that happens.
Yeah, no, it totally does. I like to bug him about it now because I had to go through it. So, you know, you have to live with the memories.
Well, then
he helps me with my radio show. Yeah,
right.
He helps me with my radio show. So he makes up for it. But he's my dad. I have to, you know, I'm obviously not going to lie about the story. And he's my dad, so I have to harass him a little bit.
Yeah, you got to pick on it, of course.
Plus, with that object being thrown, and he saw that too. I mean, I'm sure that was the final thing that convinced him.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. First off, thank you, Nora. Yeah, it was very scary. But I mean, at the time this happened with the metal being thrown at the back, it was New Year's night. I'm not sure what year, but I was at my aunt's house, and my parents were just there alone. My grandfather, this was not the grandfather who died in the house. This was my other grandfather. He died in 2004, I think. So my grandfather died just like in a hospital. Like I said, it was a different grandfather, but he had Alzheimer's. So my grandma put so much time and energy into taking care of him. And, you know, she didn't get to live her life for a time with that. She did the best she could, but after that, she didn't really go anywhere because that's how he lived. And so on this specific New Year's night, she decided to go to the Knights of Columbus Hall and get out. And we were all so happy for her. And she danced with a man that night. And we're like, good for you getting out there. You know, we were so happy for her. And my mom was the one who encouraged her to get out there, go meet people. And so my mom initially thought the medal was being thrown at her back from my other grandfather saying, hey, why'd you tell her to go meet a man? And then looking back, it was not my grandfather doing that. It was a ghost for whatever reason. But yeah, back then we just thought it was my grandfather saying, hey, what are you doing? Why are you trying to get my wife to go with someone else?
Wow. Watching from beyond, always with her.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying. You don't know if it was him at this point or seeing that. So
especially because after my grandfather died, like I said, he had Alzheimer's, my other grandfather. He did not really understand bathing in his last point of life or eating or really anything. Right, I mean, so he had a very distinct kind of smell to him. I was very young, so I don't remember, but my mom does. And she had his van after he passed on. And for a little bit of time, I'm not sure what time frame or how often because I was so young, but my mom would actually smell him. And so he would actually come back and visit my mom after he had died. So for the medal being thrown, it wasn't like too out of the blue or out of the ordinary.
Okay.
But looking back, it definitely was not him.
Right. In hindsight, right.
Yeah, hindsight's a real thing.
It is, right? Rob and I were just talking about that recently. But yeah, it is, especially in the paranormal with review, even in your story and experience and even evidence review, hindsight is tremendous.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, when you first listen to the EVPs we caught at the old house, you kind of were like, what's it saying? And then when you hear it, you're like, oh my God, you're intelligently responding about the environment. I mean, when my mom's in one EVP, you hear her voice kind of shaky. Obviously, if she's home by herself doing dishes, she hears the dog barking. We had a pug. She would bark in the hallway, and my mom's like, the ghost is here. Okay, so she grabs the EVP recorder because I like to say my mom's like the people who would die first in horror movies. There's no self-preservation there. Right. So of course she ran. She grabbed the EVP recorder, and you can hear her voice shaky, and she's like, "Are you here with me?" And then you hear the ghost go like, "Who are you?" But much creepier than that. So it's just amazing when you look back and can hear this. I actually to put those in a report in high school, psychology. It was for actually sociology for the group think, and group kind of things, and I did paranormal, and I played these EVPs for my house, and I actually made a girl jump out of a chair and scream just by hearing them, which is kind of a proud moment for me, because if I have to have trauma, at least it's kind of funny.
Spreading the joy around us at school.
I'm spreading it. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
If I have to live with this, you're going to live with it too. Check this out.
Yeah, I'm like, look, guys, this is what my childhood was.
Right. And it's funny you saying that, because your mom has such a strong personality, and she's such a strong and she's a very strong woman. And for her to have that voice, her voice trembling like that, that's pretty surprising. I mean, she must have been scared.
Yeah, she was completely unnerved. I think especially too when the psychic walked by her bed and said, he stands here. She's like, okay, I'm not just freaking myself out. But yeah, I've told her a million times. I said, if this was a horror movie, Mom, I have no hope for you.
Right.
Because she is the first person to just run in there. I'm an investigator. I want to, know things, but I also have just kind of realized through my life, there's certain things I don't want to know. There's certain things I don't want to find out about the paranormal. So yeah.
Isn't that interesting? And I'm much older than you. And when I recently investigated with Rob in a very serious investigation years ago for the first time, I've been involved in ITC almost my whole life, but in terms of actually investigating outside, it was still somewhat new to me. And I went with Rob, and we were on an investigation where he said, Josh, you're going to see things outside of your rose-colored glasses of working on ITC in a controlled environment, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I was exposed to what is out there. And I think I said, Rob, to so many words to you that there were certain things that I just don't need to know anymore. I don't need to go on these investigations as much. I mean, that's when I said, I'm just going to report back to my auditory science laboratory and just kind of hang out there. So I commend you and Rob both for what you do, going out investigating and facing those things, Sophia, that you don't maybe want to know about the paranormal, but you're still going out, you're still researching and you're still pursuing this. And it does take a certain level of courage and commitment to do that.
Thank
So
you.
So do you and Rob. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I love to just go kind of see. Part of the fun for me in investigating is kind of seeing the things that you don't see in day-to-day lives. Like I would love to go to an asylum. My parents got to go to Alcatraz. I didn't. I'm still really jealous and butthurt because the Boy Scouts get to spend the night there just because I was 9. You should have still taken me. So, I mean, things like that I would love to go do, but there's things like, seeing Goatman Bridge on TV. I'm like, maybe I don't need to go there. Think I'm okay. And I also feel that way about the Island of the Dolls. I saw it on Destination Truth. I was like, I need to go there. That's the coolest place I've ever seen. Saw it on Ghost Adventures and I saw all the spiders. I was like,
yeah, the bugs.
No.
Yeah, I think the bugs would do it for me too. I'm not really.
Like, I think I'm okay. I'm actually, even with my experiences, I think I'm way more freaked out by spiders and snakes. Like those just do it for me. I'm like out. I will leave immediately.
Yeah.
More afraid of what's in this dimension than the next, rather.
Oh my god, and I'm accident prone too.
Right.
Like I don't think a ghost would ever trip me. Well, even if they did, I would still think it was me. Like if I was scratched by a ghost, I'd be like, when did I do that? I would be so confused. Like I don't even think a ghost would trip me because they would just look at me and be like, she got that on her own. She's fine. Right. I don't need to help her with tripping. I think she's fine.
We'll save our energy for this guy over here. She's stumbling enough on her own, right?
Yeah, they're like, she looks a little too clueless about herself to try that.
That's funny.
So that's my thing. Like if I was ever scratched or tripped by a ghost, I have no idea. I'd be like, wow, is that a new bruise? Where did I get that? So, investigating the physical stuff is kind of the scariest for me.
Well, and to all the investigators out there, and not to you and Rob and everyone who's out there investigating and putting themselves on the line, and there's a lot of people really, giving it their all with not only their gear but their time, and it is a risk. There's an inherent risk in investigating, no matter where you go. Not only in things in this reality or dimension, but in the next. So there's a lot to undertake, and even though I don't do it as much, I do tip my hat to you investigators that go out there and do it day in and day out.
I wanted to go back out. Talking about Alcatraz, now I want to go back out to Alcatraz. Such an amazing place.
Love to go there for a first time. My parents caught such a cool picture there, and I'm a gamer, so I play Mob of the Dead. And I'm like, but does it look the same in real life? I will never know because they wouldn't take me.
Tell them we have to go on a road trip. I'm going to call up your dad and talk to him and say, hey, we need to go on a road trip. Let's just go on a road trip. Let's take Sophia to Alcatraz.
You guys could do it like a live paranormal field trip, and I could stay behind and run everything from headquarters, all the audio and video tech. We could run a live stream or something.
See that right there.
See,
we can do a podcast from Alcatraz, or we can do a live stream from Alcatraz. That'd be fun.
I'll run the live stream. Yeah, that'd be fun.
And he's gonna make sure he doesn't trip. He's like, I'm safe. I'm good.
Exactly.
No spiders.
I'm fine. I'm spiders. I'm comfortable here. No, and that's why some of these locations I am definitely interested in. But I definitely agree with you. There is a lot out there we still don't know, and there is really you're going in some of these locations blind, and that's what it seemed like to me. And Rob really opened my eyes to that side of the paranormal. And I'm glad I saw it, but I know I need to focus on kind of my own whatever I'm doing here. I think I just need to stay focused. Right, Rob?
Yeah. Josh can hide in the studio.
Yeah, I'll hide in the studio.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, any work done in the paranormal, whether it's electronic or otherwise, I mean, helps, prove to other people, evidence. And I mean, it's not even just about proving to people. It's about, people who do have these haunted houses and live in it. You can feel kind of insane. I was lucky my parents were, very accepting of that. after my dad warmed up, of course. But it like I said, I didn't have anyone my age to talk to about it. And so it can be very isolating. And so anyone who's going through that, just seeing someone else talk about it, even if their house isn't haunted and it's just debunkable, it's nice to know that someone can actually listen to you and not think you're insane, or at least, try and help you figure out what's there. If it's just your water faucet's leaky or your door just kind of creaks, it's someone there to actually talk you through it, say maybe it's this, try and work with you through it instead of just automatically being like, ghosts aren't real, you're crazy.
Yeah. See, and growing up, because I went through kind of the same, not as traumatic as you did, but seeing apparitions and having abilities and picking up on things. I was taken to therapy thinking that I was afraid of the dark because I would turn on a bunch of lights because I felt a certain feeling that I get. I would start turning on lights, and then I'd go to the bathroom, and then I'd run out because I was scared. And having nobody to talk to, and because people would start thinking that you're crazy, it was hard. It was really hard. So I suppressed those feelings for so long until, I was about 13, 12, 13 when I ran into an apparition. Then I started putting the pieces together. Then as a young adult, I started investigating and doing more and more research. So that's how I got my answers. But, living that, it was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah, it just is so it's so difficult not knowing, like with me, I'm being stalked by ghosts. What can I do to make it stop? There
Right.
was, in my case, nothing. We had multiple investigators come out, they saged the house, nothing helped, and it felt like it was never gonna end.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the specific night that they actually investigated my house. So the ghost, I could see him kind of like a Polaroid picture in my head. Um, but he would always stay in the back part of the house, my dad's office, like anything. There was like a hallway on one end, and then the living room and the dining room were attached, but he never was in the dining room because it was off of the hallway. He would go in the kitchen because it was kind of attached to the hallway. Anything that was attached to that hallway, for some reason, I'm not sure what it was. And he would never leave those areas. Anything attached to the hallway, that's where he would stay. And on a specific night that the investigators were out, um, actually, this is really weird too. So the psychics had brought someone who was a skeptic. They had an interest in the field, but they were like, I don't know. I don't know about this. And he was the AV guy for the live stream. And we went outside for a break, and I could see the ghost kind of just like this, just leaned up against our brick wall, just watching us. But it was different this time. He was actually a shadow figure, not like an actual image. And it was the first time he had ever stepped outside of the house.
Hmm.
And the AV guy goes in my parents' bedroom to go check all the electrical in the stream. Every single plug is unplugged from his power strip. And no one had been in the house. No one had touched it. There was no way for them to unplug. And he was so freaked out by this experience, he actually stopped talking to the man that brought him.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And this is the first time I've ever heard the story. So it's pretty interesting. I'm really I knew that
Yeah.
you had some experiences at a young age, but I never heard the deep, background. We never really talked about it.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's really scary for me, but I
All right.
think, for it being such a stretched out period of time, like when I explain it to people, they're like, wow, that's a lot. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, it was so stretched out over time for me. It was a lot to deal with and take in, but it doesn't feel like it was so extensive. And then I explained it to people, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that was a lot worse than I initially thought.
Right. Do you find it more like now that you're a little older and you've dealt with it a little bit more, you find it a little easier to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I know when I was a lot younger, I think I would get kind of emotional talking about it just because it was so hard, and it still is really hard. I mean, those scars are never going to go away.
Yeah.
I have to deal with it. But I mean, when I was younger, I think it just made it worse for me, not talking about it, because it's like, like I said, if someone was actually stalking me,
Mhm.
it's a scary experience that you don't really want to talk about, because it's just uncomfortable. It's
Yeah.
really uncomfortable to describe it. Like, instead of saying I lived in a haunted house, it's like, my mom would go up to people and be like, "Oh, Sophia was stalked by a ghost." And it just makes you feel like unnerved and just
Yeah.
gross. And I think that as I've gotten older and talked about it more, I'm a little bit more desensitized to it,
Right.
instead of letting that experience just kind of make make you feel that way. It's He had control for so many years over even the way I talked about the experience. I never
Yeah.
said he stalked me. I just said, "Oh, he followed me."
Right. I mean, the reason why I bring that up is because I've knew about your experience, but I kind of got the impression, like when it was brought up, you had like a look on your face, and it was like, okay, not talking about that. So we'd always change the subject immediately, and just and any time
Mhm.
that we met, we really didn't ever talk about investigating. We never. It was always like just fun times and just having fun with the family. You know what I mean? It was like it was always in a happy environment. So we never really talked about the paranormal a lot. And that's what a lot of people in the paranormal don't really talk about. When we all get together, it's not even about the paranormal at that point. It's about getting to know everybody and and just having fun.
Yeah, just like on a personal level, like,
Right.
like what you like to do I know you like the paranormal, but what do you like outside of the paranormal?
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, I definitely think when I was younger, it is weird to talk about. It made me feel kind of like in psychology, the spotlight effect, where as soon as someone brought up, the stalking, I just felt too, I guess, just too exposed in that moment. Like, it was more like all the attention's on me with that specific story. And it was just really difficult, because it already sucked, and it's just a weird and horrible thing to admit. But as I've gotten older, it's just something you have to live with and learn that, I did go through this, and someone else might be too. And if I don't talk about it, then how is anyone else going to feel comfortable talking about their own experiences? Because
Exactly.
that's the hardest thing. If you feel alone and like no one else at all is experiencing it, I've had people on my show before who have talked about, similar experiences, feeling like they were being followed at a young age. And as soon as I'm like, that happened to me too, they're like, really? You had that too? And you can just hear the automatic joy, because it's like, once you finally find someone that can relate to it, you know that it's not as abnormal. It's crazy, it's weird, but
Yeah.
you're not the only person on
Right.
earth. And I think just talking about it, that if someone's listening and hears it, that they'll know
Yeah.
there's other people out there with it.
Yeah. And that's what's so gratifying about doing a show is because people can reach out to you, and even if it's off the show, I mean, they can reach out, via email, via whatever, and say, hey, and then they comment, I had the same experience. And then you can kind of give them advice, on what you did to how, what you did to, overcome those fears or, and things like that. So, um, and that's what we do here. I mean, people come on and, talk about, losing somebody, and possibly getting back in touch with them, whatever, just, that's what makes it nice about having a show and just being open to, uh, taking somebody's emails or, hey, can I talk to you about this? Yeah, sure. Just send me a message and we can talk offline, whatever. And it's so nice to be able to help people. And that's why I do my show.
Hmm.
And I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really great just being able to bring people together like that, and hear other people's stories. I know Uncelebrity in the chat just asked, did the advent of ghost hunting TV shows help normalize it? And I would say, yeah, definitely. I can honestly say from firsthand experiences, it completely did. Like I said, I went to Catholic school up until 8th grade, and I remember this one specific girl. I was talking about the paranormal, and she's like, "That's not real. Why are you talking about that? That's stupid." I go to high school with this girl. We're having a tour on the Queen Mary for our art class for Art Deco history. Obviously, best place you can go for that.
Right.
And there's a scavenger hunt. So of course people are like, "Sophia, you have to be on our team." And I was like, "Okay, fine." It's literally the same girl I went to elementary school with. And at this point, we don't win the scavenger hunt because although I know a lot about the Queen Mary, don't know every single detail, like when they put in like a specific thing. I know it says sale in 1936. I know a lot of history, but I don't know all the history. So I basically took them on an impromptu ghost tour. And the same girl that said it was stupid in elementary school is like fascinated with all of her friends listening. And I think part of that is just these ghost shows, you know, it's exciting. You see Sam and Colby on YouTube. And I understand like legend tripping and urban exploring can get people hurt and trespassing is not good. Right. But letting people kind of have this interest in like, look at this location, look at what they're doing, actually just makes them want to go try it themselves. And I think they should be respectful and do it in an appropriate way. But that interest can become something more than just a thrill-seeking thing and actually lead them into these other ideas. And I think ghost hunting shows and YouTube shows help with that because it opens people's minds to it. And I think that's just kind of the way the world's changing with the shows and everything you can view. People are starting to have an interest, like, "Oh, this looks spooky, I'm going to check it out." And then they're like, "Wow, what is that?" And or they're like, "I can totally prove that's fake." And then they want to try and prove it's fake. But regardless, it's an active step in the paranormal to either disproving or proving the existence of ghosts.
Yeah. Speaking of urban exploring, that's a whole nother topic, which is amazing. I love urban exploring. I've been doing it for a long time also. So, but that's totally, and the funny thing is, a lot of times you'll start urban exploring, which I do not condone if the location isn't open and you need to get permission to go urban exploring. Do not trespass. Do not trespass. You can get arrested. You can get a huge ticket. I mean, if you're caught trespassing, it's $1,000 fine. So just beware. But when you urban explore, sometimes you come across locations that you never knew were haunted, and you'll start hearing disembodied voices. You know that you're the only person there. So that opens up a whole nother ballgame. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. Just I think the places that are still to be discovered or rediscovered, and just all the history behind it. I mean, you never know what you're gonna find. I had Connor Grassel on my show from Haunted Historian on Instagram, and he was talking about this one hospital that he was actually did an investigation in, and it had been closed for I think 60 years. Not a single person in it. I mean, I'm sure maybe someone at one point, but it had basically been uninhabited, nothing. And the person who owned it was trying to decide what to do with it, and he was like, "Can I go investigate?" And he said it was the scariest experience he ever had, and he thinks it's because all these spirits are sitting there for all these years with no one to talk to, no one to acknowledge them. And suddenly someone's like, "Who's here?" And they're like, "Me." And it just opens up like a whole can of worms for the other side to finally be acknowledged and heard. And I think when you find these unknown places, it's really just allowing more stories to be told.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Mr. Poe says just about every paranormal group in Southern California has trespassed onto the Queen Mary's first-class swimming pool. Is that true, you guys?
Pretty much.
I don't know. I'm just asking you. I believe you, Mr. Poe.
I would prefer to plead the fifth.
Oh, no, yeah. I didn't mean to implicate you.
You know, I'm like, I would prefer to plead the fifth, but I've heard something about
Through,
that.
I meant, have you heard
possibly.
someone say something about someone else that knew someone who might have done something?
Potentially at some point in time, I may have heard or seen.
Yeah, I probably
cannot.
witnessed that on that same occasion. But anyway,
We were just
Yeah.
talking hypothetically. This is all hypothetically. Yes, that's all this is.
Hypothetically,
Yeah,
I do believe, yes, that is a correct statement.
you know what was funny today? Of all days, a picture of you and I popped up from the Queen Mary. It was kind of funny because on my phone, you get
Hmm.
like daily photos. A picture of you and I came up, and we're standing outside the doors of the the swimming pool. We didn't go in, but we're
Yeah.
standing outside the doors.
Yeah, we definitely not hypothetically did not go in there. We
Right.
very really did not. But I have heard, I will plead the fifth on anything I've done. Catholic school, raised not to do that. But I have hypothetically heard that is an accurate statement.
Yeah, it's all just yeah.
I think more likely than not, it's just people who get lost and have to wander to figure it out. I think that's probably appropriate, because what else are you supposed to do? It's a very large ship. You have to kind of figure out a way out. So, accidentally go in, have to accidentally find your way out.
Right. No, it's
sometimes
accident.
Sometimes security helps you out, which is very helpful. Very nice of them. I completely agree.
And it's funny because when you do go down to certain parts of the ship, it is like a maze, and and it's long hallways and just like passages everywhere, and you're like, where are we? So you can kind of get lost and wander into somewhere, and it's like, hey, how did we end up here?
And it's quite literally a maze in some areas.
Yeah, no, seriously. One time we were walking around, and all of a sudden we're in the boiler room. We're like, hey, this is cool.
Yeah, we got lost one time and ended up in, I think, the sewage room. And I'm like, this is the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. Why are we here? How did we end up here? That actually happened, and I was with a friend, and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. This is so embarrassing. I'm like, I just took my friend for the first time, and we ended up in the sewage room.
Yeah, Chantel says, this isn't where I parked my car.
It's so true. So it's true. I mean,
and it's dark. I mean, it's not well lit. So you really, I mean, there's, maybe a light here, maybe a light, another 50 feet down. So it is kind of dark. And without a flashlight, you're just wandering literally in the dark.
Yeah. And very accurately, I went to a formal there for my friend's school. And I don't know, for like the first hour, they were just letting kids come and go. So I don't know, high schoolers, where they ended up, where they went, but I'm sure it was nowhere good.
Just trapped and lost in the ship forever, just wandering around like little lemmings.
It was the first time I had worn heels, and I was like, oh my feet hurt. I'm going to change my Converse, because I always have a backup plan. And I was like, I'm going to change my shoes. I said that to the school officials. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, my parents are here. Yes, I am. And they're like,
that could be
let's
dangerous. Yeah, and in heels.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's risky. Yeah, that's good. That's a safe decision to
change.
That's
me in general. It's a safe decision. I've never done it since. Never once done it since. Right. And I was like, I'm gonna change my shoes, and they're like, let's see your parents. And they saw them, and they were like, oh, one of the kids is actually telling the truth. That's different. And actually on that same night, these random girls who I don't know, I've never seen in my life, they were actually trying to break into our formal, according to my parents. They're like, oh, we heard there's a bunch of guys in there. And my mom's like, yeah, you're not getting in there. Because it was in the grand salon. There was one entrance in and one entrance out. There was literally no way they were getting in.
Right.
Yeah, that happens. I think that's typical in high school of those types of parties or formals. There's always a group of kids that show up that no one knows who they are. Like, how'd these guys get in here?
They weren't even wearing formal wear. So it's like they were literally not going to get in, and you had to check in. Yeah, it was really set up. But yeah, for like the first hour, or at least a half an hour, the kids were just coming and going, and God, I don't know where they could have ended up. Genuinely, you really can get lost on that ship.
Right. If they're not still there. Hopefully they're not still there. That would be horrible.
Permanent residents.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Hopefully
Quite
they
a
got
few already, so
Right,
it wouldn't be
right.
surprising.
Right.
Yeah, that ship has so much activity. It'd be more funny though if they had gotten lost and then heard a ghost and then ran out.
Right. Serves you right for getting lost. Now,
Yeah, that
a little-
hypothetically, that may have happened to some people that I encountered when I was 8 or 9, and one of my parents' friends hypothetically told me to say "mommy" in the pool area to the teenagers, and they hypothetically ran away.
Allegedly. Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly,
Yeah,
that's a story that I may have experienced.
story, not nonfiction. Story, allegedly. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of alleged stories that
Right.
allegedly happened.
Yeah, Purple says yes. Sneakers or boots.
I don't know.
Yeah, sneakers for sure.
Yeah.
I have some Doc Martens, but they need broken in, and the boots are not made for walking. I will tell you that.
Oh yeah, don't go to the Queen Mary with brand new boots that aren't broken in. That's painful ankles and a few face plants I can see.
Oh my god, no, it's torture. I just got new shoes, and I was like, you can buy shoes that are comfortable? I've been wearing Vans for so many years, and I got Nikes, and I was like, wow, I'm not buying Vans anymore.
Arch support. Yeah, arch support is nice.
I don't have any naturally built into my body, so I could need them somewhere.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. You might like Reebok pumps, a little extra air support. We'll talk about shoes after the show. We can talk about shoes.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We totally can.
Oh my gosh, this is too much fun.
Good solid footwear, says Purple, right? Oh,
It's
Deb
true.
says, how sad crashing a school formal. But, it's the Queen Mary, though. So I'm sure they were like, hey, there's something going on over there, and it's the Queen Mary. So I'm sure, it was, it's going to happen sooner or later. Someone's going to try and crash a party there.
I'm actually not sure why those girls were there. I think they had just gotten a hotel room just to hang out. I don't really know. They were like 15 or 16. And they were like,
young,
there's boys in there. And I'm like, none you want to talk to.
Right. Oh,
I may or may have not crashed a steampunk party there one time. Yeah.
Allegedly.
There's a lot of alleged stories. I think that's a really fascinating thing again about the paranormal, is sifting through the fact and fiction, because there's a lot of allegedlys just in general that happen, and I think that's definitely like the biggest part, and the hardest part is trying to figure out what actually happened.
Right.
I investigated Black Star Canyon with my friend, and that we had heard that there was like a bus full of kids that had crashed and they died, and then we were talking to someone in the paranormal who investigated there, and he's like, nope, that's not true, that never happened. I'm like, Google's lying to me? I'm like, no, Wikipedia. Yeah, there's definitely better methods to that, but we were just going and we were like, let's find out a little information. Apparently all very, very incorrect.
Yeah. So Black Star Canyon is a canyon in Orange County that there was a lot of traumatic events that happened with Native Americans. So there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of folklore, but there's some cool stories. If you look it up on Wikipedia or do some research on Black Star Canyon, it's a pretty cool location.
For sure. Actually, it was really weird. Now, I don't exactly, like I said, there's some things in the field I don't want to find out about. So I don't know how, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. But there's reports of La Llorona being there, which if everyone doesn't know, that's a Mexican folklore of a woman who found her husband cheating on her, and she was so upset she drowned her children in the river. And when she realized what she'd done, she spent her days searching for other children to replace hers. Anyone can tell me if I got that wrong. That's just what I know of it. And we were there, and I was talking about it, and I had seen, and heard some things about La Llorona from R.L. Stein's A Haunting Hour. I know, best place to get your facts. And so we're investigating there, and we're just talking, asking questions. And I kid you not, on the ghost radar, it said Maria and Mama, like almost back to back. Now, reportedly, La Llorona, her real name was Maria. And since she was a mother and drowned her children, I just think it was really weird, considering that has never happened before. And it seemed a little more than coincidental. But like I said, I can't tell you how Mexican folklore is hold up in Black Star.
Right. There's a lot of folklore about her being in several locations, so I don't know. Yeah, and supposedly it happened, like the folklore is like near Mexico, between Texas and Mexico, like in that region. That's where the legend developed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really interesting, just coincidence and stuff. And, whether it's just a spirit doing that, I mean, just kind of having that happen, I think was just really interesting. I mean, the ghost radar, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about. Personally, it's worked really well for me. I love it. You just have it on your phone. One of the weirdest things I've actually ever caught on the ghost radar app, I was with my friend again. We were at the David Oman house, and we weren't investigating. We just had it on. We were just sitting on the couch, hanging out, and it said the word pig, which it has never said before, and it has never said since. And for people who don't know, that is actually what the Manson family wrote in blood at the crime scene.
Wow.
Ooh. Wow. Sent a little chill up my spine.
Wow. Yeah, it was really strange. And I was like, I'm not ghosting you right now, so I'm just going to turn this one off. Because, I don't know what to do with that. Like, who says that? I don't think the victims would say that. So I was like, I think I'm good for tonight.
Kind of collect your stuff, just kind of get up. All right, time to head out.
Yeah, I was like that SpongeBob meme. I got to head out.
Thanks for the ranch dip.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was really, really weird experience there. So that was really interesting. So I personally think that's a really great piece of equipment, but like I said, it's varies by person to person. I know pretty universally people have EVP recorders and stuff, but things like apps are a little bit more iffy. These are just some of the responses I've gotten from it. But yeah, I mean, just the things in the field you never expect. I actually am realizing I think I'm getting more stuff when I'm literally not investigating at all, because I think half of my stories are me like, do I really need this to happen right now? Like, I love investigating, but I love it when I'm actually doing it, because when I'm just trying to be a normal person, I'm like, I can't deal with this right now.
But that happens. I mean, there's times when, there's one time when a friend of mine and I checked into a hotel at 7 o'clock in the morning, because we've been up all night driving to Arizona, and we check into this room. And we walk in, and then I'm hit on the nose. We're just feeling nauseous in that room just because the energy is so bad. And it's like, really? I don't really want to deal with this right now. I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah, it just seems to be always at the times where you just you want to take the investigator hat off and just be like, oh, ghosts aren't a thing. I'm gonna watch TV. Let's watch some 90 Day Fiance and see what else is going on to other people's lives. And they're like, this is a perfect time to drop in. And you're like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
Right. It's crazy.
Wow.
So do you have anything that you would like to promote?
Absolutely. So my radio show is every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. GMT time. And you can find it, like I said, liveparanormal.com, Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes Podcast. You can also check out the YouTube. The ghost host, Sophia Tamborelli. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, at Sophia Tamborelli. Twitter has one L because my name is too long. You can find me on Facebook, Sophia Tamborelli. And the week after next, I will be on Paranormal Experience with Kat Hobson. And I have some really great shows coming up. We have Mike Rexecker coming on. And we're currently booking Cindy Keza and Steve Shippey to promote their new show on Travel Channel. So make sure to check it out because we'll have some great upcoming shows. And yeah, you can find out all the information on Facebook or Twitter. You can also go to Ghost Host Show on Twitter.
Yeah, I know your parents are probably watching, so be prepared for me to hit you up about doing a trip out to the Bay, and we can take Sophia to Alcatraz finally.
Absolutely. I have to know, like, you just got to be able to just go there and be like, where's the Juggernog? And I haven't been able to do that yet. And the electric cherry. Sorry, I love gaming, if you can tell.
Right.
I started going to like all the zombie things, and I was like, that's not relevant.
So going off topic, so what games do you like to play?
Oh my god. Okay, so I've been playing Minecraft today. I'm building a very tall pagoda, so that's what I was doing today. But I love playing GTA 5, Call of Duty, specifically Black Ops.
Right.
Yeah, I love zombies. If you couldn't tell, I actually have a Shadows Evil poster over there, and Nectar Eisendrach, I think that's how you say it. Uncharted, Assassin's Creed. I love Assassin's Creed. Yeah, there's a lot of video games, but those are
Do you
kind
play
of
it
like
on
the.
PS5, PS4, PC?
I have a PC. Currently trying to work on PlayStation 5. I mainly play on the Xbox Series X.
Okay.
I didn't mean to say last part because then I feel bad.
Cool. Yeah, I was actually playing Call of Duty before I jumped on here, so.
It's the best. You should add me. We can play sometime. I'm sure you'll do better than me because I love playing it, but I'm not great.
Yeah, I'm sucking right now, but
It's okay. You can just blame me.
You guys let's meet in
Mercury
the chat room.
retrograde.
You guys will just meet in the chat room and be like, do you know what happened to me today? I experienced this crazy thing. And you guys will just stand there and talk. You won't play. You'll just talk about paranormal events. It'll come full circle again.
Oh my
no,
God.
you know what? Every time I hang out with Sophia, we never talk about the paranormal. We don't.
Well, that's cool. And you know what? I like, Sophia, that your mom welcomed, kind of brought you into the paranormal. Food was a big theme, right? We talked about that earlier. And Rob and I talked about if we ever held a paranormal conference of any kind revolved around our show, we're going to bring out taco trucks or food trucks. And I think that would just be the most fun because food does bring everyone together. And I kind of found that funny in that theme you brought up earlier because Rob and I were talking about that. Like if we ever do anything, it's going to involve food. We're going to have food involved. So quickest way to everyone's heart.
No, it totally is. It works every time. Like I'll be talking to people on Xbox, like my friends, and she'll just be like, yeah, no, if they ever come hang out, I'll feed all of you. Like you can make
so cool.
I'll make like chicken strips. Like she's amazing.
Yeah,
and,
thanks, Mom.
like I cannot cook like her. I can't cook at all, actually. So I figure when I need to, I'll figure it out. But until then, why suffer through whatever I'm going to make when she's going to make something 20 times better? And the thing is, she hates cooking. And that's why she's amazing at it. She hates it so much that she tries to get out there as fast as possible. So she makes the most simple homemade food. And it tastes the best because she hates it so much. She does whatever is easiest.
Listen, no one makes it like Mom. Simple or complex, Mom's the best. That's really cool that she does that for your friends. And that's interesting how that's still a theme that's been going along your whole life with the paranormal or gaming or whatever it is. That's really cool that you have parents so supportive. That really is.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. My whole family is really supportive. My grandma, she's super cool. She sews and everything. And like I use dowsing rods sometimes on investigation. She's made a bag for them. So my grandma's made like little dowsing rod bags. So I mean, she's 85, absolutely doesn't care. She just rolls with whatever. She's the most amazing person.
Cherish that time with her because, as you know, time passes quickly. So, learn everything you can from her and, just enjoy those moments. That's wonderful. I'm glad you have that.
I'm convinced she's going to outlive me, honestly.
Yeah, you never know. With the miracles of modern science, you never know.
Yeah, I call her the bruja because she's insane. That literally, like I was talking about this on another radio show recently, but my mom a few years ago, she had uterine cancer. She's all better now, but before we knew, my grandma would always look at her and be like, "You look so terrible." My mom looked normal. She looked the same. And my grandma would be like, "You look terrible." My mom one day was like, "Can you stop saying that?" And she found out she had cancer. We're like, "You knew somehow, didn't you? You just knew." And so it's just like little things like that I cannot explain about that woman. She's Mexican. I just chalk it up to her brujeria or something.
Right.
Wow, that's wonderful. That really is special. You have that bond. That really is.
Yeah, she lives across the street, so there's no way not to be bonded.
Right. Well, okay, then yeah, that kind of, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to have that bond. So whether you like it or not, enjoy the time.
She's given me more jump scares than I think I've ever had on
Sure.
ghost hunting. Like, she'll just come up to the door and knock on the window, and I'm like, God, I'm like, where did you come from? She's like, we have gravel in front of our front yard, and she just like floats across it. You can hear every single person coming to the door. Not her. And I'm like, why? Why do I have no pre-warning?
Just floats
You know
an
what
inch
it
above the
is?
ground.
It's part of the Indian blood in her.
Right.
We walk
Seriously.
no, seriously.
Like, I'm not even joking. We think my great-grandfather was 100% Native American. He was from the Chihuahua area of Mexico, so we think he was a Chihuahua Indian.
Right.
But obviously they didn't really look at, who was Indian and who wasn't back then.
Right.
But we think she's 50%, and that, I swear to God, that woman has like some sort of witchcraft or something. It's insane. And she said that my great-grandmother seemed to have kind of like a sensitivity to the paranormal. She would kind of know things. So it seems to kind of run in our family. Right. So it's all stems back to her and her little witchcraft.
Yep. Wow. It's amazing. I mean, but that's just the way that we were taught how to. I mean, it's just part of the heritage. Being Native American, it's just, you just walk quiet, but that's just inherited. So I don't know, because people tell me the same thing. They're like, "Dude, I didn't even hear you walk up behind me." Happens all the time, and I don't do it on purpose.
And you know what it is about her too? She's 85 and she fell recently, but it's just like, no, she's fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, the woman's fine. She's 85. You would think it did something. She was limping maybe like 2 weeks, but it was like a normal person falling and limping for like 2 weeks. I mean, she just bounces. Wow, she's fallen a couple times, but not like an old person fall, like I tripped over a rock fell, like I would do. And she just bounces back. She'll literally try and just be like, oh, look at me. Like, she'll just like do these like fake squats to show you how fine she is. And I'm just like, why are you like this? Please go sit down. And she fell. And I'm like, okay, Grandma, I take you your food. Like, do you need me to get anything? She walks past me to go get a fork. Please sit. Please, I'm begging you. She doesn't listen. She's perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. And I swear she did something from the Fountain of Youth. And I have no explanation.
That's incredible, though, that she's so mobile and wants to be so mobile and alert and to do her own things. I mean, that's really, that's really good, especially, at that age, to continue that momentum. Once in motion, always in motion type thing. So just stay in motion.
Her inertia is just going for days. I mean, she is 85. And so, like, she's trying to upgrade her house. She's obviously owned it a while. And she lets me pick everything. I'm 22. So I have a little bit different taste than her. So I pick out, like, the most, and not like weird outlandish things, but like I picked out this black floating sink, like super stealth looking, and you wouldn't think an 85-year-old would love it. And she just loves everything because it's so modern and contemporary. I mean, she's like no one else I've ever met in my life.
Well, and you picked it out for her, so that's special too. It's extra special.
Yeah, well, it's special because she just likes to prove to people she's not like any other 85-year-old. I'm convinced.
That's true. Yeah. So there's a lot.
I've seen waiters flirt with her offsite. So I hope she sees this because I'm exposing her right here. I'll just be sitting there and she's just like looking at the menu, not noticing, and the waiter's like, I'm just like, what?
Wow. My goodness.
Completely off topic about the paranormal, but there's something paranormal about her whole essence. So that just needed to be out there.
That's interesting.
Totally fine.
Rob and I talk about all the time, since we're so heavily involved with ITC, is how much of the person or the operator is involved in the communication with these devices. And you talk about her like that, and she has that aura or that spirit about her. And you've always detected there's something, it seems like there's some her fingers on the pulse of her spiritual energy, and you can feel that, and it radiates, and you can kind of tell. So that is important.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, she's had her own experiences too. My grandfather, like I said, he had Alzheimer's, but when they moved into their house, I don't really know the history. I know that it was built in the 1940s. They got it probably sometime in the 50s. And so it wasn't super old. And so one time before they put all the extensions on the house, it was kind of like mine, which was a 2-bedroom small house. And she was putting my uncle to bed, I think, and she saw this man clear as day standing in the hallway, and she called my grandfather, and he ran and he saw this man there, and then the man just disappeared, like completely disappeared. And it freaked my grandfather out so much that up until the day like he died, he slept with a bat underneath his bed.
Wow.
And I mean, this man had Alzheimer's, everything, and never left underneath his bed. And it was the only time it happened, but it freaked him out that much. And, you know, my grandmother just never had any doubts in her mind. She just always ran with it, and she's never questioned anything. And maybe it's because of that experience, maybe it's because of our heritage, but she's just very open-minded and loving. And I saw someone comment about them having underwear older than me. I don't thank you. I don't know.
Excuse me one second, Sophia. You guys, I told you to be on your best behavior this evening. I reminded you guys on the Saturday show.
I'm so sorry.
We'll handle them on our Saturday show. Don't worry. Len, I'll handle you on Saturday.
Yeah, no, that was entertaining. So thank you for that.
They mean well. I swear they mean well. It's all in good fun. So
no, for sure. No, like I said, I'm a gamer. I'm sure I've heard worse.
Oh, you know what? That's true. That's true. I've been on the Xbox Live chats before, and there's some very interesting language on those chats, I should say. Very creative. Very creative language.
I've never heard Sophia curse or anything, but I'm sure that words slip out every now and then when she's gaming. I can only imagine.
I can imagine GTA 5 elicits some very passionate responses depending on what the mission is.
I just like to vibe in GTA. I just like to chill, and like it's the worst thing. If you play as a girl on GTA, I kid you not, I've had cars pull up next to me and they honk. And if you don't get in the car, they shoot you. Why would I get in the car? It is so creepy. I'm like,
that
no.
Is weird.
Oh, speaking of weird too, I love horror video games. Hate horror movies. So like I love Outlast, Resident Evil. Hill. Actually, I haven't played that, but I played Resident Evil 2.
You might like Silent
There's a
Hill.
new zombie game coming out because I have both PS5 and Xbox Series S.
Oh, look at you!
X. Wow. There's a new game coming out. Hold on, I'm looking it up. I'm going off topic. Going on the gaming.
Do you like the Resident Evil series at all?
Yeah, so I actually played the second one, the remake, and I loved it. And I had pre-ordered the third one, and it was right at the start of the pandemic. GameStop never sent me my game. I actually had to cancel it. I was just so upset at the whole occurrence. I never played the third one, but I loved the second one. I was just really upset because it took like 4 months, and they just never sent it. But yeah, now I'm just building stuff. Like I said, I like to design my grandma's house, my house. So
right.
Minecraft. Actually upset my friend today because he got me the Electro wings in it, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna die." And I was like, "No, I'm gonna do my best not to." And he's like, "Oh, you actually fly really well. That's upsetting." And I fell today when no one was on. All my stuff on the ground, I was able to pick it up, and the game glitched after I exited and came back, and all my stuff was there again. So I have double of everything I already had. And he said it was the best thing I've ever heard. He said, even he was like, even when you fail, you're successful. And he was like, oh, even when you have defeat, you're successful. And I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
So the game coming out is Dying Light 2.
Oh yeah, I heard about the first one. I never played it. I think I was playing more like Dead Rising back then.
Right.
I played the third one, and I thought that was fantastic.
It looks really good. So if you like zombie games, you might want to check it out. I know that I think it's coming out later this month, or is it next month? Might be next month.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I've been waiting for like I can't even remember. It's been so long. Like Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines. I really want to try that, but they keep pushing it back. I think Michelle asked if I've had any experiences in the current house I'm in. Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we've had some TVs turn themselves on like in the middle of the night, but it's electronic, so I can't really say that that's paranormal.
Sure.
After living in a haunted house, it definitely freaks me out regardless. But nothing here, thankfully. I'm extremely happy about that.
Yeah. And what a relief, because imagine for those that are kind of basking in that energy 24/7 and the inability to have a normal life, or just to play video games, just to go out with your friends, just to take a break. So that way you can still be passionately involved in the paranormal and still have a life. So that's really, I'm happy for you that you don't have that burden with you 24/7 in terms of like the experience you shared when you were 9 years old, so that you kind of have that freedom and peace when you want it.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. I mean, it's nice to just kind of have that normalcy.
Right.
I mean, to where I lived when I was younger, it wasn't like I said, there was a lot of homeless people around there, so I couldn't go walk outside my front door because it just wasn't safe. There was no kids around where I grew up. So when I moved houses, it wasn't just the paranormal too. I was actually able to go learn to ride a bike by myself. It was a lot of change for the better. So I'm really happy where we live now. And yeah, it just all around was just a better place. And I think it's just really great to have that shift, especially at a young age, you know, being able to go from kind of this isolation, you know, not being able to walk outside my front door to being stuck in this misery to actually being able to walk outside if I want to and, you know, feel safe in my home. It's a different experience, but it's really nice.
You definitely want that safety and security at home. When you're home, you're home. You know, you want that peace and quiet and the ability to do what you want and have that control. Really, that's important.
Yeah, unless you're in a COD lobby, then you lose all control. It just goes downhill, and you're like, oh my god, I have one game mode I'm good at in multiplayer, and I'm just stick with that. I feel so good in that one.
Well, that's what you have fun. That's what you have fun doing, is that one game mode. That's what you do.
Yeah, I'm just always like, sticks and stones, guys. Sticks and stones. Let's just do that.
Stick with that.
Definitely.
Well, Sophie, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It was such a pleasure to have you on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. And I'd love to have you both on my show too, to come on and, you know, talk about yours and just your experience.
That would be a lot of fun. That would be
a lot of fun. We have a lot of stories.
Yeah, Rob will talk the whole time, and then I'll have to sit there, just act like I'm having a good time watching Rob ramble.
You have that nice mic setup though. You gotta use it. Use it.
I know, and thank you, Sophia. I have all these sound effects. I'm all ready to go for the show, and I never get to use a lot of it. So yeah, I'm gonna want to incorporate more of this as time goes on to kind of add some spice to the show.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you have that nice setup. You got to be like those streamers on Twitch. You got to get out there.
Oh, Rob, could you imagine me on Twitch? Oh no, I don't know if that would go very well.
I would watch it.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I would make sure that I wouldn't waste your time, and I would try to be as educational as I possibly could. You probably already know what I know, but, you know, I'd do the best I can.
I might not, though, and I wouldn't know until you actually try it. So I encourage you to, you know, use that microphone, use those sound settings.
Well, there you go. I'm going solo, Rob. How you like that? I'm going to start a Twitch account. I'm going solo. We're going to see what happens.
See, you take all my audio gear and look. Yeah. Then you just take over.
Yeah, just take. Yeah, you know what? I like the sound of this. The Joshua Sean Twitch. What? I don't even know what to call it. But we'll figure that out. I like that.
You got it. I believe in you. And thank you everyone in the comments for being so sweet. I've had a really great time, and I appreciate you all, just your questions and everything. And again, for having me on.
One last time, very quickly, plug your show where our audience and our friends and family can go listen to you.
Okay, so I'm the ghost host, Sophia Temporelli. You can find me every Saturday live on liveparanormal.com from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. UK time. And you can also listen to archive shows. Check them out. Filmed on YouTube, The Ghost Host Sophia Temporelli, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Blog Talk Radio, and you can also listen to them on iTunes podcasts. So yeah, I hope you guys check it out, like the show, and you can find all the updates on the Ghost Host like page on Facebook, Ghost Host Show on Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter, Sophia Temporelli, and find me on Facebook, Sophia Temporelli.
Boom. There it is. So follow, you guys.
Yeah. So,
Thanks.
Mr. and Mrs. Temporelli, just be warned, I will be reaching out to you soon to plan a road trip. So just be warned, because I know you're probably watching.
Well, I for sure look forward to it. And again, thank you guys.
Thank you.
It's so great talking with you.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Thank you for being on. And
Thanks,
we'll
guys.
talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. What a treat, Rob.
That was a lot of fun.
And I think what I'm so impressed with, and I just have to say this, again, we talked about that experience she had when she was 9 years old, and to pivot and stay with the paranormal from that very young age. These things are so impressionable at that age, right?
Yeah.
And I think of my own son who's 8 years old, who's almost 9. And I think about him experiencing something like that and how that might affect him. You know, it makes me start to wonder. And I'm very impressed with how she not only stayed with that passion and had the same enthusiasm, but in a way, and using her own words, she was advised to stand her ground. And she did. And although those experiences were scary, just to see how she's progressed through the paranormal and continued that is remarkable. Because I have heard of stories where people have these experiences when they're younger, and it completely alters their perception, not only of reality, but it scares them, and they don't want to face these things, and they ignore them the rest of their life. So it's very interesting how one person may go one direction and another person may go another direction.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think when the first time I met her. I mean, I think I met her, she just turned 16. I want to say around that time, maybe.
And that's, that's a very tough age. As you know, boys and girls, they're changing, they're growing into adults. And it's interesting to hear her say, and I remember when I was in high school, that you didn't really talk about the paranormal, or if you did, it was weird, or it wasn't accepted, or you were an outcast. So it made me wonder, because she had started in this so young, did she have any friends at that age to connect with or share these things with? And as she said, no. It was very much a personal journey through that age, and that can be very tough.
Yeah. No, and just for, since I've met her, I mean, she's been so strong. And like I said, there was a time when I brought something up and I saw her face, and I changed the subject immediately, because just the way, like I said, when I was talking to her, and I brought that up, she just had a look like, she's like real hesitant. So I was like, okay. So I changed the subject. Actually, I changed the subject and stopped talking about the paranormal altogether. Because it just wasn't, when you're at a get together, we were just all talking, chit chatting. And I did bring something up because I was like, hey, can I ask you something? And then that's when I brought it up. And then I was like, no. All right, we're changing the subject. And then never even talked about the paranormal, even though we went like on a pseudo investigation on the Queen Mary, and may or may not have ended up in certain spots.
Allegedly.
But I mean, we had a blast. I mean, it was just so much fun. And that's just when we get together in groups like this, it's like pseudo investigations are just about fun. It's not about, hey, let's go see what we could capture. It's just we're out having fun,
right?
Pseudo investigating, we're just having fun as friends. So, and believe it or not, when you're doing that, that's when you capture the most incredible evidence. It's so funny how that happens. And it's like, and I know I had an unorthodox way of investigating, and you experienced that, Josh, when we're just sitting around talking, chit-chatting. We're talking to the owner of the house. We're talking amongst the investigators, and everybody's like, when are we going to start investigating? I said, we are. They're like, what are you talking about? And I said, you want to, this is something that I've experienced or I've learned. And here's a technique. We come in, we don't want spirit to think like, oh, who are all these people?
Right.
Now we start interacting with everybody. We just sit there and chit chat and talk like we're welcome guests.
Right.
Then what happens is we start hearing shit happening in the background, and then we're like, wait, did you guys hear that? What are those footsteps? We start experiencing things because we're kind of like just sitting around like normal people would and just we're not wandering around. We're not trying to gather evidence. We're not, you know, um, we're not trying to capture something off guard or
Right.
now the spirit is on high alert. They're like, oh, what are all these people doing here? I'm going to check out. I'm going to be gone for a little while. But once you start doing that, then things start happening. And we were there um, when the client told us when activity was at its peak. And that's why we started doing that. So anyway. And
And
that's, I think, why we have so much success when we're just in a group and we're having fun because we're not trying to, I guess we're just trying to just show like, well, these people, are probably just guests here and doing whatever. They're not paying attention to us. And
right.
then what happens? Boom. You
Right.
capture a piece of evidence.
And we've really taken that approach, and I don't know that it's been a conscious movement, but the way you're describing the investigative practices that you engaged in and that I experienced firsthand,
Right.
the same approach in many ways is what's happening on the Saturday show with the ITC sessions. And
Exactly.
it kind of,
Exactly.
instead of coming from the direction of where I admittedly brought to the show a little more intense flavor in terms of, let's put our intensity and focus into this, it became more of a family friendly environment where we all just
Well, I wouldn't
welcomed each
say
other.
family friendly.
Well, yeah, that's not really the right word. Family friendlies. Yeah. How about it became an environment of some kind where we felt comfortable with each other. And then it seemed like spirit, they, whoever again we're talking to, the intelligence conscious message feels comfortable with us. And that handshake kind of happened. And then now the communication and the strength and the bond is growing. And so that's an interesting approach that you took, not only investigating, but now we're using an ITC. And it seems like a
Right.
lot of seasoned paranormal investigators are doing the same thing from what I'm observing.
Right. And it's just a technique that I've developed, many years ago. And I found that it worked.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to remember is our natural state of being, our personality, and the environment we're in are very much familiar to those it seems like we are speaking to. It seems like they're very aware and familiar with our environment. And the calmer we are, the more confident we are, and the more comfortable we are in general with each other, it seems like that communication, there's an easier process to it.
Okay,
Can't quite put our
so
finger on it, but that's what it seems like.
so in life, okay, here's the thing. I've been through many stages in life, personality wise. I was super, super shy. Would not even me doing this. Oh hell no. Being on a live stream. Hell no.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I started doing my radio show 3 years ago. That's when I first joined Live Paranormal. Maybe, yeah, it was 3 years ago. Maybe four.
2017.
2017 is when I did my radio show. Then I stopped in 2018. So yeah, I took a little hiatus. I mean, it was a long hiatus. But even in the beginning of doing my radio show, anytime somebody would ask me to be on the radio show, I'd be like, nope. I was just too shy at that time. I mean, in person, no, but I didn't like being on the radio. I don't like being in front of the camera. That's why I was always behind camera during investigations because I knew what I wanted to capture, and I hated being on camera. Um, and I had some self-esteem issues. But getting over my shyness, I think I got over that in probably the later part of doing radio. Even though I'd do it every week for a year, I would still get shy. Um, but then I built up my confidence. So, like you said, and I have a point here. So, when you have
Get to the point, Rob.
when you get confident, it brings out another type of energy
Right.
than when somebody's shy. Um, because you're like, wait a minute, is that guy like, you don't know that somebody's shy. They can come off as being stuck up. They can come off being, whatever,
Cold, right? It can
cold.
appear
Right.
cold, sure.
Exactly. But once your confidence level, I know, here this past year, I was still having some confidence issues. I was still having some self-esteem issues. But I've been working on myself, and now I know that my confidence level is a lot higher. So it's just I think that that's helping the show on especially on Saturday. I know maybe over the last 2 months it wasn't so much, but I think here recently, once we started turning things around and started making everybody laugh, my confidence started coming up again.
Whether it's
And
at or with us, people started to laugh.
right, right, and but then it was just like that. So everybody's energy was just at a higher level.
Right. It was.
And I think that that is helping with what's going on the Saturday show now. We're trying new experiments, and those new experiments are freaking crazy.
Right. And there is definitely, it seems like an organic progression. It seems like the foundation was poured properly and we're building this house rock solid with this constant, perseverance and continuity every Saturday and building these shows. And it seems like, even like I stated, there are certain things that happen, or I know that happen due to measurement equipment, unbiased measurement equipment, that I know how your FM radio sounds in reverse.
Right.
These are the boundaries of how audibly this device sounds. And then we're picking up other frequencies on there we've never picked up before. And I've had your circuit now for, oh my gosh, years, your original one. But I know what it's capable of and what it's not capable of. And we're getting now different signals and frequencies through it and communication that technically I didn't really realize this circuit could do. And now it's doing things that we haven't seen before. And that's what's really interesting, is because now not only can we attest to this personally, but we have unbiased measurement equipment actually measuring these changes. And again, it can't prove anything, but we are measuring changes as this communication increases and gets more proficient. Proliferation. I'm going to make up a new word, and that new word is proliferation. Our communication is becoming more proliferation. Would you agree, Rob?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Proliferation. It's a fine word. I use it all the time. It's been around for a few million years.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And the circle is getting strong. That's right on Celebrity Kevin Hart. I think that has a lot to do with it. I really do.
I think it has a whole lot to do with it. I mean, we know when it changed. Everybody saw it change.
Right.
So part of the intro that I'm building for Saturday is something that I started using for a mantra and for a meditation that I started doing. Um, and when I started using that, it changed something. I mean, it was activity would just start happening. And that's when Blu-ray first started really taking effect, the early stages.
Right.
So that was what I was working on. I'm going to try to get that finished up before Saturday.
Oh, that'd be great.
Anyway, but yeah, this whole thing is just with what we're talking about. I think just with all of the energy, with all the positivity, I think now also with me working on myself and bringing up my self esteem more, and my confidence is, like I said, I haven't felt this good in a long time,
That's
in a
great.
really
I'd
long
love to
time.
hear that.
So, um, yeah, now my confidence level is it's up there now, which I'm finally happy with myself.
Dude, I'd love to hear that. I absolutely love to hear that. And I would love to hear that from any one of us here in this group on
Right.
this show, but I'd love to hear that from you, man. I really do. Yeah, Kanga says dramatically proliferant. That's going to be my t-shirt. ITC is dramatically proliferant.
Yeah, ass. The ass part's going to be insinuated with ass chaps.
No, but okay. I guess if we have to. Now you know why I don't go out to events. People are going to be like, that's the assless chat guy. Yeah, that's why I don't go out. That's why I don't leave the house. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Right. Kanga says building confidence is a lifelong job. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay, so go ahead. I have to read this, Rob. Uncelebrity Kevin Hart says that's proliferentialishness. I'm going to learn that word and say it. Uncelebrity Kevin Hart. Proliferentialishness. I'm sorry. I'm doing this live. Okay, Rob, let's move on. Yeah, and thank you guys. Thank you for letting us behave tonight. And we promise you a wild show on Saturday. We will give you a wild show on Saturday. You give us the Wednesday show. Thank you so much. We will give you the Saturday show. Okay? Deal? Right, Rob? Is that good?
yes.
You guys run the Saturday show. If Len says, if anyone in this chat room sees me at a Paracon, I will forever be the 22-year-old underwear guy. Yes, Len. We'll walk in together. We'll be like the dynamic duo. Assless chaps and underwear guy. Oh, that'll go over really well. Thank you, Roland. Thank you so much for your support. Deb. Yeah, Saturdays.
I need TV for my bunghole. TV for my bunghole.
Almost got out of the Wednesday show.
For my bunghole. TV for my bunghole. I must get TV for my bunghole.
So close. 6 minutes. 6 minutes, Rob. 6 minutes. We'll revisit old topics on Saturday. We will. Thank you, Nora.
And what's going to be the topic for Saturday?
There's a topic for Saturday? ITC.
Are you threatening me? 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 I need Aurelios for my bunghole.
This will be tied to our guest, Sophia, who was on earlier, and it's on the same live stream. I'm so sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry.
Well, you were threatening me.
Yeah, but what was I threatening you? Now I am. Now I am threatening you. You do this on Saturday, not on Wednesday. But that's okay. That's okay. We'll let it go. Topic is paranormal and go. Well, and again, if for all of you that are chatting, you know the drill. But if you're new and you're listening back to this on Rewind, 11:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time this Saturday, we have the live 3 a.m. ITC sessions, as we belovingly call the Saturday show. Be there. You won't want to miss it. That's where we have ITC sessions. We have fun. It is where, from what I'm to understand now, we let loose and let our hair down. So join us. It's a blast.
Oh, and whatever you do, don't drink water during our show or have any liquids near your electronics.
Random impressions do happen. Yes, random impressions might happen.
You might be like Purple Dahlia and spit water everywhere. So just, you've been warned.
Yeah, Kanga, we're gonna run the early Blu-ray, and Rob and I were talking today. We have some plans for the future in terms of how we'll kind of freshen up the communication every Saturday and kind of keep something new always happening where we can always experiment with something new.
There's going to be some cool things coming. We're just talking about that before tonight's show started. So,
Yeah, it'll be
and
fun.
we've been talking about it for all this week. So,
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, so we're excited. It's something, tell your friends if they're even interested in something like this, they want to check it out. We're going to start.
it'll probably be maybe a month or two, but
Yeah, it'll be a
it's
little
going to
bit.
happen.
Yeah, we're going to start ramping up some good content and good ITC sessions and equipment and technology on Saturdays. Okie dokie. That about wraps it up. No?
Wait, I'm curious to know what all the different paranormal is into. That's a whole. We can do another show on that.
What is it?
What areas of the paranormal people are into?
Oh,
What are all
right.
the different types?
Right. That's an excellent subject. Yeah, excellent topic. Yeah, it's a really good, and that's what we're going to mix that up. And I think a lot of what we're going to do on the Wednesday show when we bring in guests on Celebrity Kevin Hart, that's kind of an ongoing theme is what is their specialty in the paranormal or what experiences have they had that are certainly fascinating and out of the realm of anything normal.
Yeah, I need to try to get Rob and Nikki on here.
Right, Ken.
And maybe Purple
Sandy.
Dahlia also. We should have the five of us on here. That'd be fun.
Oh, Kenga, we missed you, but you're there on Saturday, so we know you're here always. Not a problem. Rob's going to add an additional show, but that may be coming. But
on the 21st on my birthday,
right,
do a birthday show,
the Friday show, right?
Maybe. We'll see. I'm not going to even say how old I'm going to be.
Right, Purple. Yeah, we work on building equipment, and we probably should have some standard questions we should work out, Rob. We do interview guests on Wednesdays. It might be a good idea.
For what?
For us to focus on our interviewing skills and the questions we're asking our guests.
We just go off the... I
think people know we go off the top of...
I
think that's obvious.
I don't ever have... Because I don't want to sound monotonous. I ask certain questions that I know that I'm going to ask the guests, but I don't want to sound... just have a list of the same type of question. So everybody that I talk to, it's always different.
We're going to ask people the first question. So how'd you hear about our show? Second question, what makes you think we're so wonderful? Third
Right?
question, say 5 things nice about Rob and 5 things nice about Josh. I mean, we could do something like that.
What do you think about Cornholio coming to visit us every Saturday?
Oh my gosh. Join us on Saturday, everyone. It's going to be a lot of fun. It always is.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly, Purple. Exactly. Go outside the box. That's right.
Yeah, we just, I wish I was 25. No, I don't. 25, no.
Oh, Sandy, your son will be 30 on the 25th. Happy birthday to him. What a milestone age. 30 that's a big number. A lot of fun.
Assless chap or nipple clamps, with or without wax.
Okay. We will see you Saturday, you guys. This is, no. We can't even edit this. This is live. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will see you Saturday, 11:45 p.m. Join us live 3 a.m. ITC sessions. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. And see you guys Saturday.
See you Saturday. Good night, guys.